Did law enforcement give you access to I'm going to try to use the right word, to folders where you could access their information on like a subfolder where you had a link to their folder?
No.
Did you provide them with links to your folder?
Yes.
And one of the links you provided them involved a download of Eric's phone. Is that right?
No.
Okay. Did it involve the decoded call logs that you talked about earlier where you figured out everybody's number and name?
I'm confused. You're talking about two separate things. You were just talking about Eric's phone.
You said no, right?
I had an identical copy of Eric's phone that I created from the backup on his Apple iCloud. I may have turned that over to them, but they already had Eric's phone. I didn't need to give them what I had done, which was to trick the Apple server into repopulating a blank iPhone so that I could then forensically examine that iPhone and come up with contacts from Eric's phone. So I may have given them that information that I created from a clone of Eric's phone.
So you had in your possession a clone or an exact copy of Eric Richins' phone?
It would not be an exact copy. Only the items that were unencrypted or decryptable from the Apple backup would be on the cloned phone. For example, encrypted data would not be present for biometrics, for his Apple Watch. If he was wearing a biometric watch, that is all encrypted. That would not come back to a new cloned phone. But all of the text messaging, the web histories, the call histories, all of that stuff will be present on that clone.
So you had access to all his texts?
I don't believe I did.
Why not? And this is maybe a stupid old lady question, but explain to me why you didn't have access to his texts if you downloaded everything off the cloud.
You said all of his texts.
Okay.
I don't believe I ever got all of his texts.
How far back did they go?
I don't recall the date at this time. I would have to refer to the file material to know the exact date of the first event on the phone.
So how much time did you spend reading through his texts?
Well, I don't recall exactly. I could refer back to some records to come up with an answer for you. It would have been a number of hours.
Hundreds of hours?
No.
Okay.
I mean, in this case?
Right.
936.3 hours.
Is how many hours you billed total for the case?
Yep.
And what were you paid for that?
I don't know.
How much do you charge an hour?
$125 an hour.
So,
However, that is not the only billing rate in this case. When I used computer forensic software and my expertise in that regard, the rate would be higher. $200 an hour, I think, was the discounted rate that I gave them.
So I'm really bad at math. Please forgive me if I get this wrong.
Yeah, well, we're both in the same place.
We're talking about over $100,000 you made on this case.
I would say so, yes.
Okay. Now I want to go back to that phone and you reading his texts.
Yes.
As you were culling through your hypotheses,
Yeah.
obviously one of the things you want to look at is the state of their marriage. Is that fair?
I mean, it's significant, but it's not dispositive.
I agree.
It's important context, but it's not evidence of anything, really. I see a lot of bad marriages out there. In my career, I've handled many hundreds of divorce cases. So, people have problems.
Did you review text messages between Eric and some of his friends?
Yes.
Did you review text messages between Eric and Bryce?
Bryce Knudsen?
Yes.
I don't recall specifically, but if they were there, I probably looked at them.
Okay. Your Honor, can I have just a moment?
this was sitting here.
When you reviewed Eric's texts, did you find evidence of him sexting with people other than Kouri?
I don't recall that. I did investigate allegations of an affair with Eric.
Okay, but that's not my question. My question is, do you recall seeing sexting, as the kids say, on Eric's phone with
Yeah.
people other than Kouri?
I don't really know what you mean by sexting. I don't know what the parameters of that are. And so my answer is no.
Okay. Did you find any texts where Eric talked about having an open marriage with Kouri?
I don't recall that.
At some point, were you investigating cases that were being prosecuted in the Summit County area around the time that Eric died, where people were caught distributing fentanyl?
Yes.
Did you gather affidavits from cases where fentanyl was being sold in the Summit County area?
Yes.
And did you ever follow up on any of those investigations, or did you just stop by gathering the affidavits?
Well, they were plugged into the hypothesis testing matrix. I considered them for their proximity, being in Summit County, and for them involving fentanyl. In each of those cases, I found no relationship to this case.
Okay. I want to pull up TG2, Katie, just for this witness only. Sorry, I lied about the time. I'm going a little bit longer, Your Honor. I'm close to done.
No problem.
Sir, do you recognize that?
I do.
Is that what you were talking about with Mr. Bloodworth, which is the decoding where you looked at his call records and tried to figure out who he was calling?
It is the record that I referred to when I was talking about it on direct. I agree with that.
And Katie, could we go to the page for the date 2/14/2022 at 12:23 p.m.? It's a ways down. Just a moment, Your Honor.
Of course.
All right, sir, we've blown up a section. Does that refresh your memory about what you determined a call that was made on December 14th at,
Give me the date one more time.
I'm sorry, February 14th, thank you, Your Honor, at 12:25 p.m.?
Well, this is not a record that I created, but I recognize the format, and it appears to be that Eric Richins' phone had an incoming call at 12:25.
Can you look at the call right above that one?
This is an outgoing call from Eric Richins' phone on March the 9th of 2022. I'm sorry, February the 14th of 2022 at 12:23, 2 minutes before the first record that we talked about, and that is to a different number, 801-473-5058.
So as part of your investigation that you were doing on the mirror phone, you could at least identify a call that was made by Eric at 12:23 p.m. on February 14th, right?
I'm confused. We're looking at an invoice record from a carrier, and you're
Right.
asking me about his phone. Those are two different things.
Did this invoice come from his phone
No,
billing records?
from his carrier, from Verizon.
Right,
That's not a record from his phone. That's a record from his carrier.
I understand.
Two different things.
So according to the bill from his carrier,
Yeah,
he made a call at 12:23 p.m. on February 14th.
correct.
Okay.
Objection, there's a 901 problem here.
I'm done with it, Your Honor.
Hold on. You got to approach for a moment, if you would.
There's- Did you ever make any calls or any trips to Mexico as part of your investigation in this case?
No.
You mentioned you interviewed 45 to 50 people, somewhere around there, 40 to 50.
Yeah, it's an approximate number. I have no method of calculating that number. It's approximate, based upon my memory.
Did you ever interview Kouri?
I did. I spoke to Kouri. She called me on January the 19th of 2023.
All right. And she voluntarily spoke to you
She called me.
and talked to you voluntarily?
She did. And I stopped her. I told her it would be inappropriate and unethical for me to continue the conversation outside the presence of her lawyer. I then texted her lawyer and had a phone call with her lawyer about the propriety of her client speaking without her presence.
Okay.
I then
So you-
requested that Kouri submit to an interview multiple times.
All right, stop.
Okay?
Don't reveal what anyone else said to you.
Okay.
The point is, Kouri called you to talk to you and tell you her side, right?
I don't know what her intentions were. She seemed very angry that I had contacted one of her business associates. I believe that was the reason she called me on that date.
Okay. And so you never, to this day, have sat down with Kouri and heard her version of what happened?
No, despite my repeated requests.
Okay. She called you.
And I was bound by the ethics not to talk to her outside the presence of her lawyer. She was a litigant. She sued my client.
Okay. And ultimately, as you were working with the trust, did you become aware that the trust filed a wrongful death suit against Kouri?
I am.
And are you aware they're seeking over $10 million in damages against Kouri Richins?
I didn't know that. It's irrelevant to me.
Okay. Okay, court's indulgence for just a moment, Your Honor.
Of course.
Your Honor, can I have just one moment? You found it? What's the date? Okay. I asked you whether you recalled seeing any texts with Eric about him and Kouri having an open relationship, and you said you could not recall. Is that right?
Correct.
Can you put that up on the screen, Katie? Do you recall looking at that text?
I do.
You've seen this one?
I believe I have. It's a joke.
It's a joke.
It is. It appears to me to be a joke.
Did you see the text around this text?
I did.
So you have reviewed the text between Eric and Bryce.
I don't know. I don't know that this is a text from Bryce. I have no idea. This does not identify Bryce.
So
Doesn't
now that
identify anybody.
now that you have your memory refreshed, do you remember seeing this text between Eric and another individual saying that Kouri and I are starting an open relationship tonight? Right?
It says, Kouri and I are starting an open relationship tonight, so I told her I'm taking you home.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And you left that out of your report.
No. This would be part of my report.
Did you see sexting between Bryce and Eric? when you looked at their texts?
I don't recall that, no.
Katie?
And is this sexting? I don't know what you mean.
No, I'm not talking about this one. I'm talking
Okay.
about other ones.
All right. I don't recall. I'm talking about many hundreds of thousands of messages in this case. I can't recall them all.
Let's see, just a moment. Court's indulgence for just a moment. Can I show you this other text right here to see if this refreshes your memory? Do you remember seeing a whole bunch of emails like this or texts like this between Eric and Bryce?
Honestly, no, I don't remember. Like I say, there were hundreds of thousands of messages in this case. I don't remember even 1% of them. As I look at this, I mean, it just makes me laugh. It doesn't appear to be serious.
So how many of these joke sextings did you review that Eric did?
I don't understand this to be sexting. I think you're wrong about that. I resist your characterization. These are two friends joking with each other. That's what I'm reading here.
And they did that all the time,
I don't know.
hundreds of times.
If I had the records, and then I could answer your question, but I don't remember all of these messages. And yeah, this is a joke.
Did you review all of the texts between Bryce and Eric?
I think at one time I would have gone through every single text message that was available to me on Eric's cloned phone. So, do I recall it? Well, I mean, I recall that it was a bit mind-numbing. There was a lot there. Nothing particularly stuck out in my mind or memory about those messages.
Did they repeatedly talk about having sex acts together?
I don't recall.
Did they repeatedly talk about oral sex together?
I don't recall.
Did they talk about anal sex together?
Also don't recall.
But you read them all,
I'm sure that I did.
and it's all joking.
Knowing what I know about Bryce and Eric, yeah, that's how I interpret it.
So you do remember reading things of this nature, and you interpreted it all as joking?
No, as I sit here today, I interpret it that way. I would have interpreted it that way back at my original reading of it. That doesn't mean I recall it. It means I have an opinion about what I thought then. That's different.
And what did you think then? They were joking?
No. What I think now is that this was a joke. I do not have a recollection of this at the time that I first read it, but if I had a recollection of that time, I'm sure it would be the same as it is today.
And if there were these tens of 20s of 50s of these types of emails, all of them would be jokes?
Foundation.
Sustained.
That's it. That's all I have, Your Honor.